Thank you, Andy. Now we have another screen up. So thank you very much. I think that our three speakers have really given us some interesting things to talk about, to think about. How does it affect what we do in our lives as sport managers, as people that work in the sport industry? So now I'd like to invite David, Moss, and Andy to the stage, and we'll start a little panel discussion. So I'll come down here, so if anybody wants to ask a question, I know the room's not that big, and you probably won't need a microphone, but I am here if one needs it. So I'm going to kick it off. We talk about sport being in a crisis, or perhaps there being issues in sport. Youth sport, corruption, drugs, bribery. Do you guys have any ideas? What are your thoughts about how we can get us out of that crisis, make us not have issues in sport? Anybody want to give that a go?
Yeah, sure.
You probably don't need this.
Well, I think, talking as a New Zealander, I think New Zealand has a lot to offer world sport, and we're not doing it yet because we don't know how to work at the international level and get ourselves elected onto bodies that can make a difference. But there are plenty of people in this room who could do a great job at the international level. What we tend to do here is stay in our own little environment and don't. The one thing I learned from the job that I did for nearly 14 years was that being a New Zealander had a lot of attributes. One, we don't have any agendas. We're not like most countries in the world that carry agendas with them. Two, we speak directly. So we don't, like some countries, speak in helicopter terms, talk, never land. We actually get to the point. And I think we have a lot to offer. So I would like to lead a leadership group of these young guys in a way that can produce them getting on the international stage and making a difference.
My feeling is that, again, it's got to be athlete-driven, athlete-coach-driven. So if you can go to the athletes and find out how they truly feel and they share with you, then they're giving the organisations the mandate to go from there to be able to make that change. So I would put it to wider athlete commission that they should be doing that for the athletes, what I already have.
Similar sentiments from me. I think in youth sport, it's that question, athlete, what are the needs of the athletes? What are the needs of young people? And as adults, as caretakers and custodians of the sport, what can we be doing to ensure that we're providing the most positive experience to young people? So whether it's the competition structure, whether it's putting matches on TV, whether it's agents coming into school to talk to 14 and 15-year-olds, sport leaders and parents step up and reflect, are we providing those positive experience for young people to grow and perform?
All great ideas, and something that Sport New Zealand can perhaps jump on the bandwagon and get another committee going, but an active committee that can help us move forward in that area. Now see, we're trying to keep to time. I'm going to open it to the audience. So I've got a question down here and one this way.
Graham Steele from Free Sport. Perhaps an observation more than a question, even though I have a comment on it. I don't disagree at all with David that the pressures on international organisations with the amount of money and so on is increasing the pressure to be corrupt and so on. The glass half full, I guess, view of it is that we're actually exposing it now much more than we ever did through the work of WADA, through the work of international regulatory bodies outside of sport, FDI and others. So what has probably been simmering there for many years is now being exposed in a way that never has been before. And the kinds of programs that we've been talking about amongst parents and so on are things that didn't happen 10 years ago. So let's not get too downhearted about this. There is actually some light at the end of the tunnel because people are looking to address these issues more than they previously had.
Can I just answer that, Trish? That's in New Zealand. And we've got to remember this country, we are the good guys. And when you look internationally, there would be probably 15, 20 countries of good guys. The rest are bad guys. And those are the people you're sending your athletes out to compete against. That's the issue that we've got to be very alert to. So it's not what we're doing here. We should be sharing what we're doing. I'm worried about New Zealand. I'm worried about the bad guys out there who are getting away with beating our kids by doing it in a corrupt or false fashion. And I think, from what Moss is saying, we've got to do more for our international athletes in that regard.
Do you have anything to add, Moss?
I agree.
Okay.
I just add there, Graham, I think you're exactly right, and I think there are a number of organisations now showing some real good leadership across the space. The work that you're looking to do in the secondary schools around raising awareness to supplements, etc. The Sport New Zealand-led programs. There's a lot more happening, and I think we will eventually get to a tipping point where some of the behaviours that we're talking about, particularly in the youth sport space, will become the sort of against the grain type of thing. So it requires, as I said, strong leaders to show the way, and I guess that's partly why we're all here tonight.
Thank you. We've got another question down here.
I'll play devil's advocate. If drugs has always been in sport, and we know it's rife out there now, or believe it's rife out there now, why don't we just let them take drugs once they're over 18 or something like that, so they're not affecting the youth, but just let them take it?
You should ask Graham to answer this question, because he's much better at it than me. But
Okay, sorry, can I just add to that? They've talked about having a drug-free Olympics and a drug Olympics. So maybe we can build on that question and see, will that day ever come?
look, I've been asked that probably 95 times during the time that I was at WADA, and the only way you can answer it is saying, would you be happy if it was your children taking stuff to enhance their performance to a degree that you couldn't be confident they would continue to live? Or to a degree where you couldn't be confident that they would have children when they grew up? Or to the degree that you couldn't be confident that the children they had weren't deformed? Now, if you were, go ahead and have it. But if you're not, and you're worried about that, you've got to look at keeping the structure in the way that it currently is run, and making sure that the bad guys who are getting away with it are nailed. And I just say one thing: if this had been New Zealand with a governmentally doping program that went through all our elite athletes and it was brought to the attention of the IOC, do you think we would have been invited to Rio?
Yeah, my answer is it becomes a science experiment. It's not truly athletes competing. In New Zealand, you're extremely insulated. You grow up here, and we have a great testing system, and we don't know what's going on. But to get that competition, you have to start going overseas. And then, as an athlete, once you start competing overseas, you know who's cheating. You already know who's on it. You get athletes there that are basically plateaued for a couple of years, and suddenly within 6 months they're a world, top 3 in the world. Their bodies change. They're swimming times faster than they've ever swum before. And Zane Robinson was saying about the Kenyan runners, when you're in that environment and you're studying and you know what's happening, you know who the cheats are already. And that's why I've been so vocal about it, and that's what makes it really, really hard for Kiwis from New Zealand and those countries, that sort of top 15 countries who are not so corrupt and are clean, to then have to go on a world stage and front up against all these guys who are cheating.
With social media these days, it's so much easier to get the word out there. When you look at the athletes that are tweeting, they're using Instagram, they're telling their stories, and so it's so much more known than it ever had been, sort of in days previous to social media. And Leslie, and then over here. Thanks, Trish.
So Leslie Ferkins from AUT. I think a question for Dave. And you talked about the 15 to 20 good guys, and you also talked about New Zealand leading the way in an integrity unit, and I think I've heard you speak on that before, and it's about sort of connecting up the drug-free together with integrity. Can you point us in the direction of countries that are doing that really well, and why they're doing that well, and how can we progress that?
Finland is doing it under an umbrella which used to be their National Anti-Doping Agency, and they've expanded it to include all matters of integrity of sport. Graham's been there, he can tell you better firsthand about how they're covered. It's only been in existence for maybe 6-9 months, but they are a leader. Other countries in Europe are thinking along the same lines to do that. Why do we have to wait for Europeans to do it? I mean, I thought we were growing up now. So Australia is looking at it. The only issue that's stopping them doing it in Australia is because of their state system. So they are not ready federally to be able to advance. But they've got a sport integrity guy who's actually on the WADA board. So he represents sport integrity and anti-doping. So I think those are two examples I can give you to show the way forward. Graham's got some very good ideas about this. He's got to be given the support by the government. That's where the responsibility.
Yes, and we are running this event tomorrow night in Wellington as well. We have Michael Woodhouse from Sport New Zealand, and one of his roles is to be one of the creators of the integrity policy for New Zealand. So if anybody has any friends in Wellington, send them there tomorrow night.
Hello, I'm Alexei representing the AUT, and my question is about the event that will be hosted in Auckland next year, that is World Masters Games, and just now learning that the senior sport is also affected by drug abuse. I'm wondering if you think that the event can be also abused by drug use, and if it can be used to tackle the issue. Thank you.
The biggest issue about Masters events is that many Masters or mistresses are already on all sorts of medications.
That would be on the banned drug list.
Well, I'm speaking for myself. So, are you going to ask each competitor to disclose all their medications and try to get a therapeutic use exemption? That's going to be a huge effort. What you just have to do, I think, at Masters events is rely on people to be ethically correct and ask them outright, please come to our events, don't cheat. And there will be, I suppose, some sort of testing program, but it shouldn't be under the WADA code because that's too tough. The TUEs you could never have enough doctors to approve all the TUEs. So that's the only issue that I would be looking at, and I would challenge them all to be ethically responsible.
One would hope that that's the idea behind master sport. You're there for the fun, the social activity, even though we still like to win. So we've got one more question. Ooh, maybe if there's two short questions.
Thanks. We've seen in the last few days some in the media about TUEs, and it seems to have opened up quite a can of worms. Do you think the TUE system as it stands now is strong enough?
I think, personally, the exposure has shown that the TUE process is pretty robust and has stood up to scrutiny. What does worry me, and this is a side note, is the medicalisation of doping. That there are a lot of doctors now out there looking for substances that are not banned that might be able to give an athlete an advantage, and many of them are prescription drugs. And they are prescribing drugs to somebody who doesn't have the medical condition for which they ought to be taking this stuff. That's the area that worries me. And that's what you call stepping up to the edge, if you like, of the rules. That's a big worry. I think that all the TUEs that have come out, it's a really sad thing that they've come out in the media. It really distresses me because I know some athletes have got conditions that have been treated properly and they would not even want their family to know. And once that starts, then we're in deep trouble. The reason for it, in my view, is that WADA put meldonium on the list at the beginning of the year. 200 or 300 Russian athletes were on that substance in that medicalisation area because they had bad hearts. So only Russian athletes with bad hearts, they need meldonium, and now these are the Russians hitting back at the Western world saying, you did that to us, we're going to do this to you.
I guess we're running out of time, but we do have time once we're finished here to mix and mingle and talk to our three speakers. They've been fantastic, really gave us some good ideas to think about within sport. What are our challenges over the next decades to come? How can we cure some of our ills of sport? So I'd like to thank you very much for coming, and I will let Jeff close the evening and Dwayne.
Thank you, Trish, and thank you, panel. I mean, for some fascinating discussion. Certainly a lot of food for thought, not the least of which was, David, your comments on peptides. So I'd like to learn more about this sexual prowess thing and the age reversal. Where do I line up for that? But no, certainly, you know, as a parent with teenagers myself, standing on the sidelines and looking at the undue pressures on these young people and kind of the divergence from what truly should be the focus of sport, which is not necessarily about the winning, but it's about development and it's about their learning and working together and all of that. We've certainly lost track of that. Thank you guys so much. Trish, thank you as well. And one of the things that I really find fascinating and very enjoyable personally about the Big Issues in Business series is this type of organic discussion that takes place. And one of the things I started out by saying tonight was, this connectivity, connecting with ASB, connecting, the university with industry, with practice. This type of organic discussion wouldn't have taken place without that, without those connections. So to me, that's really exhilarating and really what we as a university are all about in bringing that all together. And thank you again, ASB, for that. Absolutely fantastic discussion. We do have the last, I'm actually getting sad here already because I said we had 3 big issues in business, tonight being the third, and the last will be coming up in 6 weeks from tonight. And that is appropriately timed for the Christmas Madness season, and that's going to be on retail, hosted again here at ASB, and that's appropriately titled Bricks and Clicks. We've got our marketing people out back here to come up with all these amazing titles. Bricks and Clicks, 6 weeks from tonight. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you again, Dwayne, and over to you.
Yes, well, a truly enthralling night, so thanks very much for that. It was truly inspiring to hear some of the stories and everything. Trish, thanks very much as well. Great job done there. Please feel free to stay. There's still some more wine, there's beers. Help yourselves and stay as long as you like and travel home safely. Have a good night.